We have proclaimed martial law in accordance with the powers vested in the President by the Constitution of the Philippines.
Martial law is declared when the President places a specific area under the control of the Armed Forces of the Philippines or the AFP and other related bodies. When there is civil unrest or other disasters, the head of state declares it. In the Philippines, martial law is defined by the Marcos regime as a period of injustice, repression of freedom, and cruel torture methods. What was supposed to be a peaceful transition in the country turned out to be a nightmare for the Filipinos. So, whenever September 21 approaches, we are frequently reminded to never forget. And to use that phrase is to recognize how innocent lives were wrongfully taken during the martial law period. And, if anything, we would like to remember the lives of those who vanished without a trace during the martial law, the Desaparecidos. The Desaparecidos were those who allegedly participated in the rebellion against the Marcos regime. They were said to be tortured in inhuman ways, and their bodies or spirits were never at rest. Here are a few stories about the martial law's Desaparecidos. Jessica Salas earned a bachelor's degree in social sciences from Centro Escolar University in Manila in 1972. She then taught sociology and political science at the University of the Philippines in Manila for 5 years before moving on to the University of the Philippines in Los Baños, Laguna. She was working for master's units at the UPLB College of Agriculture at the time of her disappearance on July 31, 1977, and was preparing to defend her thesis. Salas, a UPLB research associate, is remembered as diligent, hardworking, and passionate. She was a student leader at CEU and the editor of the student paper, and she was known for her intelligence. She was also a member of the Philippine College Editors Guild. Jessica Salas was a college professor who discussed the country's political situation in class and a community organizer in the Philippines who disappeared during the dictatorship of Ferdinand Marcos. At the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, she founded the Student Christian Movement of the Philippines. Jessica is remembered at UPLB for giving her students a lot of leeway in discussions. She encouraged the students to inquire about the country's socio-political situation while it was under martial law. Students organized forums with her support, inviting nationalist speakers such as Senators Jose Jocno, Lorenzo Tañada, and Jovito Salonga. She also led discussion groups with her colleagues about issues concerning teachers and teaching. Often, the discussion centered on how to make teaching more relevant in the face of martial law's restrictions on freedoms. She founded the Kapisanan ng Mga Gurong Makabayan or Kaguma, a teachers' organization that worked to promote and protect teachers' rights and actively campaigned against the dictatorship's repressive policies. Salas was also a member of the Folk Medicine Society, which sought to rekindle interest in traditional and herbal medicine in Laguna and Batangas. The society aimed to revitalize and popularize traditional and herbal medicine in order to improve the health of the poor. It held seminars and workshops for physicians, nurses, pharmacists, and biology students. Members traveled to remote communities to hold seminars with local healers and other community members. In addition, the society conducted research on medicinal plants. The group educated doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and biology students before traveling to remote communities to teach local healers and other community members. At the age of 26, Salas was arrested along with 9 other activists working with community organizations in the Philippines' southern Tagalog region: Cristina Catalia, Gerardo or Jerry Faustino, Rizalina Ilagan, Ramon Hasul, Salvador Panganiban, Emmanuel Salvacruz, Virgilio Silva, Modesto or Bong Sison, and Erwin de la Torre. The group was dubbed the Southern Tagalog 10. Months later, the military informed Catalia, Ilagan, and Salas's families that the 3 missing girls were killed in an encounter in Mauban, Quezon Province. The military cited a document seized from the communist leader Jose Maria Sison, according to reports. No further evidence was provided to the families, and the military later denied any knowledge of the students' whereabouts. Their bodies were never discovered. Salas's name is inscribed on the Bantayog ng Mga Bayani Wall of Remembrance, which honors martial law martyrs and heroes. Rizalina Ilagan. On June 19, 1954, Rizalina was born. She was an anti-martial law activist who was kidnapped by state security agents and then disappeared. Ilagan was always at the top of her class as a student. In high school, she directed plays, winning Best Director, and wrote for the school newspaper. She also went to conferences put on by youth organizations like the Future Farmers of the Philippines. In her senior year of high school, she became an activist and joined the local chapter of the militant youth group Kabataang Makabayan or KM. She enrolled at the University of the Philippines in Los Baños and became involved with the theater group Tambuli, directed by Leo Remando. She was appointed as the Southern Tagalog coordinator of KM's Panday Sining Theater Organization, which staged plays depicting societal problems in the Philippines. When martial law was declared in 1972, she dropped out of the university and went to work full-time organizing communities in the dictatorship's underground resistance. She also worked as a staff member for a Southern Tagalog underground newsletter. At this point, military intelligence agents began to pursue her and other activists working in Southern Tagalog. Ilagan and her two companions, Jessica Salas and Cristina Catalia, were abducted on their way to a meeting at the Makati Medical Center on July 31, 1977. They were supposed to meet fellow community organizers Gerardo or Jerry Faustino, Modesto Sison, Ramon Hasul, Emmanuel Salvacruz, Salvador Panganiban, Virgilio Silva, and Erwin de la Torre, who were all kidnapped. Rizalina's brother, Bonifacio Ilagan, believes his sister was kidnapped by a group of state security forces known as the Ground Team 205. The team, he said, was made up of agents from the 2nd Military Intelligence Group, the 2nd Constabulary Security Unit, and the 231st Company of the Philippine Constabulary, all of which were led by a Colonel Galido. An informant told Bonifacio that the team consisted of 24 agents, including civilians. The team was primarily active in Southern Tagalog, but it could strike anywhere. Rizalina contacted Bonifacio prior to the incident and insisted on meeting with him. Bonifacio admitted that he was aware of the danger. He was aware that the military had placed him under surveillance in order to track down other activists. Rizalina was involved in the underground movements at that time. Bonifacio was a KM leader who was arrested in 1974 and released 2 years later. He met with Rizalina in July 1977 because he felt she had something important to say. Rizalina informed him that some of their colleagues had gone missing. They were in desperate need of a halfway house. Bonifacio had agreed to look for a house and had scheduled their next meeting. Rizalina never showed up. When the Ilagans didn't hear anything about Rizalina, they went to military camps and the Ministry of National Defense in search of her. Bonifacio stated that they even attempted to find contacts within the military, but were unsuccessful. According to Ilagan, the family got in touch with someone who had contacts within the intelligence community about a month after the kidnapping. The source stated that he would do his best to assist. When the man returned, the family was told it's too late. According to Ilagan, the man confirmed that Rizalina was in military custody. They were informed that Rizalina's custody was no longer within the scope of normal procedure. The informant did not say whether or not Rizalina was still alive. Rizalina Ilagan is regarded as a martial law martyr and hero, and her name is inscribed on the Bantayog ng Mga Bayani Wall of Remembrance. The cultural center of the Philippines Arts Festival, Pista Rizalina, was named in her honor. Sison's body was eventually discovered in Lucena City, Quezon Province. The bodies of Silva and Panganiban were discovered in a ravine in Tagaytay City, Cavite. Ilagan and the rest were never found. They are only two of the nearly 2,000 desaparecidos who were separated during the martial law. There have been survivors who have lived to tell the tale. They were abused and tortured mentally, physically, and sexually. They were electrocuted, beaten, and even forced to play Russian roulette. These are only the beginning of their torment. Having said that, survivors of martial law want current and future generations to be properly educated about this dark period in the Philippine history. The administration violated human rights and suppressed people's liberty. Filipinos were brought out of the dark because there were people who fought for their freedom. Those who gave their lives for the democratic nation we live in deserve to be remembered and honored. We can't do that if we forget about martial law. As citizens of this country, we have a responsibility to protect the freedom that the martial law heroes fought for. It's time to educate ourselves and look for leaders who want to help people. It is time to act wisely and fight for our right to have great leaders in positions of power. We cannot allow history to repeat itself. So, we must never forget.